Hello, this is Mike Swanson, and you're listening to the Wall Street Window podcast. In a few moments, I'm going to be speaking with a very special guest. I'm going to be talking with Carmine Savastano, the author of the book, Human Time Bomb, The Violence with Our Nature. And one of the things this book touches upon is how our society has become kind of more disordered in the past couple of years, thanks to social media and all the usage of the internet. And now people are using the internet more than ever because of the economic shutdown taking place across the country. Now in March, we saw the stock market fall off of its 52-week high at one point, the fastest rate of decline ever in that short amount of time. It even was falling faster than it did during the 1987 stock market crash and 1929 stock market crash. During both of those times, the market hit the 200-day moving average, then bounced for over a week, and then fell. But this time it didn't even have that 200-day moving average bounce. Quite a remarkable drop. And of course, the Federal Reserve lowered rates to zero and is now engaging in unlimited bond buying to keep the bond market propped up. And gold is taken off as a result. Mining stocks now the best performing part of the stock market when it comes to individual sectors. But the stock market itself has had a rally over the past few weeks since that March low. And now there's talk of the economy opening back up. So people are buying into that. However, what no one is really thinking about is what is that going to look like? What is it going to mean when the economy opens back up? What is it going to actually be like for us, for you, in our personal lives on a day-to-day basis? Things are not going to be the same. That old economy is gone, and the situation we're in of everything shut down is going to pass probably by June in most of the country, but it's not going to return to normal. Things are being planned to be put into place that's going to dramatically impact your life. And that's what I talked about with Carmine in this discussion with him. So one quick commercial break, and then that discussion with Carmine.
Carmine Savastano, Human Time Bomb, The Violence Within Our Nature, poses significant questions and considers the evidence that violence shapes the past and present. Author and Professor David T. Beato calls it an impressive tour de force. Savastano shows a mastery of relevant work in biology, anthropology, and intelligence. Each chapter will challenge readers to rethink old assumptions. Doctor of Psychology R. Blackstock notes, "It is a long, hard look into the potency of our collective shadow that is extremely relevant in today's socio-political climate." Historian and author Larry Hancock declares, "This work is a slap on the back of the head, a wake-up call, and a serious reality check as to the true human condition." Order your digital and print copies now on Amazon.com. For more information, visit tpaak.com.
Hey, how you doing today, Carmine?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Mike?
Okay, well, how are people hanging in there where you live in Michigan with this virus situation?
Well, we're doing okay. I haven't seen, any widespread problems beyond, of course, the health crisis. But I think people, for the most part, I'm sure as everyone learned, there was those protests recently at the State House and at the governor's actually residence, I believe. One day they actually went outside her residence and protested.
Well, how many people is it? That made national news, and I live in Virginia. There was some protest, but at the state capitol, but it didn't look like but 10 people or something. So, but how big is that one?
Yeah, I think from some of the reports I saw, it was like in some cases dozens to hundreds. It wasn't. I mean, it could have been more than that, but I didn't really. When I saw it, I was like, okay, whatever. They want to go protest. Just don't get anybody else sick if you can manage it.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of people were upset and mad. about that, and a lot of people were upset and mad in other areas about the Amazon protesters, the people who were being forced to go in and work in what they considered unsafe health conditions, and then they protested. So personally, I'm not mad at any of them because, right, and I understand in a health crisis, it's hard to delineate these things, but we still do have the right to assembly. We still have all of our constitutional protections. So even if it's dangerous, legally, they can go protest. Now, I'm not saying that that's the smartest thing for them to do. I'm not saying it's the safest thing for their communities for them to do, but they can do it. So when I hear people get angry and say that, they should be, because I've heard people say that they should be arrested. I've heard people say that they should be shot.
Well,
I've heard people say that, just seriously, like they should be dragged out in the street and shot because they're mad about what the government's doing. And, I understand that there is a level of ignorance for some people that they're just mad, so they're going to go out and throw their hands in the air and scream. But at the same time, there were abridgments of our freedoms that were being undertaken, as far as like in Michigan. I don't know about the other states, but I know in Michigan, Whitmer shut down the Freedom of Information Act. She shut down the Open Meetings Act, which the Open Meetings Act at least makes sense. I understand she doesn't want a bunch of people in a room infecting each other, but they could have televised the meetings then. They didn't have to close it down completely.
Well, I mean, look, most people everybody is frustrated. A lot of people are angry. Yeah. So if the protesters are angry, okay, but then other people are going to be angry too. Yeah. So they're going to get angry at the protesters. I mean, people are they're angry and they're finding ways or being directed to put that anger into this and here spot. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to, and now's a great time to be someone like Rush Limbaugh or one of these characters.
Yeah, Rachel Maddow or Henry.
Yeah, Maddow, and just, get angry, and because people are angry and they like to hear it. But I don't, I'm not trying to, I'm trying to I want to share some information with you about what's happening in Virginia and in Maryland and Washington, D.C. They're kind of planning together on how they plan on opening things back up. We're under a lockdown that's, well, some of it they say is going to end in a couple weeks, but really he set June, the governor of Virginia set June as the date. And I'm not trying to be for that or against it or anything. I'm just trying to figure out where this all is going.
Yeah, and I think that's what most of us are doing. We're just trying to figure out how to survive and how to keep the people we care about okay.
Well, it has a lot to do somewhat with the financial markets, because there's a lot of people, in the stock market that believe that everything's going to open back up and just boom. And the more you read this stuff, well, I'll just get right down to it and say this. I'm not going to read this whole article here, but just kind of paraphrase. I'm going to link to it. This is from my local newspaper, so it's free for people to read. The Washington Post had a more detailed article, but I'll link to that too, but with the show notes, but it could be blocked for a lot of people. But they're talking about 3-phase opening with the two states and the District of Columbia working together. And the phase 1 is continued social distancing, continued teleworking, and face covering recommended in public. How long that phase will last is unclear, but the state health commissioner said it will be in effect until medical countermeasures like a treatment or vaccine are rolled out broadly. Now, the Washington Post article said that could take 2 years, and it said in Maryland, as part of that, no public sporting events. So, I mean, I'll have good news at the end, so I'm doing all the bad news first.
Well, and you know what? And I don't think that I know that sounds unthinkable, especially to some people in my family who are huge sports fans.
Well,
But
no events with crowds. They
well,
could
that's the thing. Yeah, they're gonna have.
hopefully play with empty stadiums or something.
Well, and that's what I think we're going to see is I remember back in the '90s when the the Pistons had won 3 times the championships, and there wasn't enough room at the stadiums at the games because they were sold out and packed. So they would telecast it to the Palace,
Yeah,
and then we could all go there and watch it if we wanted to. So that's what they're going to have to do with a lot of these events. There's going to be no crowds. It'll be hilarious if they have to put in crowd sounds.
yeah, it
Like
could
they do
happen.
on TV. Where they're just playing songs and stuff and showing old footage from when the crowd used to dance and everything. But but yeah, I mean we're going to have to not have huge number of people together. We can't have huge number of people together. It just can't be done because that's just going to create a hotspot and a possible huge transmission area. And for the foreseeable future, we're going to have to be aware of that.
And they're also they're also saying in here that they are expecting a second wave in the fall.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting stuff. So first, before I read this, I'd say that a few weeks ago, a friend of mine, David Scarico, lives in the Bahamas. Now it's probably close to a month, but he knows people that run restaurants and work at resorts and even own small kind of like resorts. And somebody told him that they spoke with someone in the government of the Bahamas, which has locked the country down from Americans from coming there, that they expected everything, that they would start to allow Americans to come in August and everything would be back. And this was told a month ago to somebody. Now, I've gone there once a year for like over 10 years now. I like to go to Las Vegas every once in a while. So I've been following what's going on and what these people are expecting. And in the Bahamas, I saw that this woman that's head of the tourism department in their government, she said they expect Americans to start coming in August, and she's like saying this is going to be great. It's going to help the Bahamas. She's very upbeat. And then when she's saying all this, she then says we're going to be fine because we'll have private jets coming and high rollers and stuff. So that I've been worried that it's going to be difficult to fly and do much traveling like that on airplanes, or you won't want to. Not that we won't be able to, but I think we may not want to. And in the casinos in Las Vegas, there was a conference call with Wynn Company with Wall Street analysts last week, and they said they expect to be open in June, but they don't expect anyone to be coming by airplane until hopefully August is kind of what they're saying, but they're not even sure about August. They're basically planning to open the sections of the casino one at a time, have the hotels only at like 10% capacity, and expect most of the business will be people coming from California. Again, it's not that you won't be able to fly. It's just, as I'll explain in a minute, I don't think you're going to want to.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure you can get into the specifics of it, but you're basically sealing yourself into a metal tube, and it takes one person to infect the whole plane.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a bad idea.
Yeah. So like the Bahamas, yeah, we're not going to be getting many Americans coming on these passenger jets. So they're going to be coming on private planes. Well, you know, who's that? That's the mega wealthy doing that. Yeah. Not someone like me, you know.
They're going to have to. What we actually might see is we might see some of the we might see some of the resort communities and, you know, the resort areas cater expressly to the wealthy, because the average person won't want to take the risks to go there, or won't have the money in the amount that they'll need to maintain all of the services that they offer.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen, at least for some period of time.
Yeah.
So in Virginia, to get to the details, more on this phase one. So it doesn't say this in the article, in this specific article, but the governor gave a press conference last week in which he said phase one could start when they have more testing. And I don't remember the exact number, but 4,000 a day or something. And it's double what we're at now, but it seems pretty achievable that they can be able to test like 4,000 people a day. And then with that is basically what they're kind of, I think, waiting for to do this so-called phase one. But here's what it involves. Guided plans for reopening businesses, which will include different industries like restaurants and barbershops. So the restaurants and stuff, just about everything from the sound of it will be able to open back up in some way or another.
I was just going to say, I think that the smartest states will, and hopefully Vegas, as they said in their planning, will actually keeping the capacity down. That, I think, is going to be the most important thing for all the reopening that happens, is it needs to be less people across the board. Restaurants need to remove some tables. They need to put in more chairs so that people can be farther apart from each other. They need to not pack the place to capacity anymore. In fact, we might actually want to consider what the new healthy capacity for buildings are and change our laws to match that, so that people just change. Mm-hmm. Because if we pack places full, once again, you're going to create a hot spot. It can't be everybody on top of each other. New York has to teach us something. And that might be the place that most needs change. New York, and this is reflected, I think, I'm sure you'll have, things to say about this and in the future, but this really reflects the problems within parts of our financial system that are unsustainable, like rent prices in LA and New York. They're unsustainable. The inflation of the market in real estate is beyond the pale of reason.
Oh yeah, well, it's the housing prices going up for years.
Yeah, so I think
all these rents go up.
Yeah, we're going to see a big adjustment because some of these places need to go down as far as not just pricing, but they've created an unsustainable system where if you don't have think about, there are businesses that go out of business in New York from what I've seen, if they just don't get a week of hardcore sales. So imagine what this is doing across the board.
It's devastating.
All the storefront businesses are pretty much toast unless they can find some bailout money.
Well, here's where it gets real interesting, is this final point. It's a couple paragraphs, but this is where everything's going. The state also plans to expand contact tracing, a labor-intensive effort, Oliver said, that's the health director, that will involve enlisting volunteers from Virginia Medical Reserve Corps, as well as furloughed or underused healthcare professionals at public hospitals and private practices. Okay, so this is kind of, the reopening is dependent on more tests and some system of contact tracing. And here's what that is further going to involve. This is going to change all our lives when I read this.
You mean getting rid of the right to privacy?
Well, sort of. It'll be voluntary.
For a while.
The state also is exploring the use of mobile apps that will help assess an individual's risk of carrying COVID-19. State Health Secretary Dan Carey said the state was exploring applications under development by Google and Apple that individual citizens could opt in for. Carey and Oliver said representatives of the state's health agency were participating in a call Friday afternoon with Apple about its product, which the company expects to roll out next month. So next month, they're going to have an app. And Google, they're working together, so it'll be on Android and the Apple phones. At first, according to, unless things have changed, this is what they were saying last week. I'll try to find the article and link to it. But they're planning on having an app that you would install on your phone by choice. And then what the app would do is communicate with other phones around you through Bluetooth technology. And if you are around somebody within a certain distance, I think it was 12 feet, maybe 20, but something like that, for more than 10 minutes, then you would be alerted to that and told to go in quarantine. And also the health department would be alerted of what has happened.
Yes, I won't be putting that on my phone.
Well, the article also said at first this would be voluntary, and then at some point this would automatically be installed on all phones in an update. Now, this type of system is why it would be very difficult for me to get on an airplane and fly across the country, or get on a bus, go anywhere with public transportation, because, you're at risk of this happening to you. You could be go on an airplane flight, get off the plane, then 5 days later, they found out the guy was sick you're sitting next to. Now you're in quarantine.
Here, okay, so there's a few things I'd like to say. The first thing is based on the latest, reports, and this changes from day to day, so who knows if this is 100%, but there is no, like, the WHO put out a thing the other day that said there is no assured immunity, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so there's no assured immunity. So what, we just do this forever? It's ridiculous, in my opinion. I understand people are going to get mad at me for this, but it is ridiculous. We cannot just do this forever, and I'm not going to give all of my privacy away so that the government can feel more safe about knowing where I am all the time. No, thank you. I won't be doing that. And I'm sure people are going to get shamed, and I'm sure people are going to get yelled at, and I'm sure they're going to say, you're killing people. But you know what? I'm not going to become a drone that they can just send to quarantine whenever I do something they don't like. I don't think so. Not me.
Yeah, well, you may have to have this phone and this
I
app.
just want to have a phone.
Well, yeah, but you may have
email.
to. Yeah, but say I'm the Buffalo Bills or something with my sporting event. I'm only going to let people in that got the app on their phone that are, not positive.
Yeah, I don't attend concerts and I don't attend sporting events.
Well, this may be the choice people have to make if they want to fly, if they want to go to public events, and so forth. Or even maybe it'll get down to if you even go to a restaurant, you'll need something like you'll have to be cleared.
I'm getting takeout then.
But I don't think this would be permanent. I think in time they'll, even if they'll get a vaccine, or it'll fade away, or degrade. It's what viruses do.
And I think eventually you're right. I don't necessarily think the virus will be permanent. I think that will go away. But I don't for a moment think that if you give the government this power, they'll ever give it up.
Well, it's a completely voluntary. It's the companies doing it. It's Apple and Google.
Well, it's voluntary, like you said, now. But eventually it'll be on the phone and it won't be voluntary anymore. It'll just be part of the system.
Well, then you'll have the choice to use the phone or not.
But what if they make everything go through your phone? Then what choice do you have?
See, I don't. It's just not. I don't think it's just like a government power grab. It's the companies.
Oh, no,
they're going to get full surveillance on everything you're doing all the time, and your medical information. And
I agree with you. I think this is a power grab by all of them. I
think
it's a power grab by the companies, and then it's a power grab by the government because they can tap the companies for the information.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, no.
This is
China.
Yeah, but this is the heart of phase one opening. This is phase one. When people are all want the country to open up, this is what it is. These people demonstrating, we want everything to open up. It ain't going to open up and be normal. This is what's coming.
Well, and I agree with you that there's going to be, but this is when people need to be vigilant. And this is we don't have the time for this tonight, but I'm sure we'll talk about this on future shows, and I'm going to talk about it with Chuck later this week, hopefully. But we have to be vigilant now, because that can't be allowed. This can't be allowed to happen. This is not, number one, because of reinfection and no immunity, this isn't going to save us. All this is going to do is tell the government and corporations where you are all the time and who you come into contact with. And if it's somebody they don't like or somebody they think is dangerous, then you can be quarantined. I mean, what more effective way of shutting anyone down whenever you want is there? I mean, this is real canceling. You can literally cancel somebody from culture for 14 days. And then you can say, nah, maybe you need another 14. Well, so yeah, no, I see this as dangerous. I don't like this, and I think this could be more dangerous than the virus. Because eventually what this will lead to is a China-like state where this has already been implemented, where they have social ranking based on your actions too. So then your whole ranking in the society can be monitored, and if you do things they don't like, if you have facial expressions they don't like, you can lose social ranking. That's a nightmare. That's an Orwellian nightmare, is what that is.
Well, they're not going that far. It's just... This was a remarkable... I mean, I read this a few hours ago. This is a remarkable article because I read about the Google and Apple thing last week, and now I'm reading point blank that the state of Virginia is working with these guys, and they're planning on having it start next month. Now we got a date on it. Next month, it's going to start rolling out. So, and then they're working. I'm sure these guys are working 24 hours a day to do it ahead of the June opening in parts of the country. So it's coming.
Well, yeah, and I think what you might see too is you might see people like me go to flip phones if we have to. We'll go backwards.
Sure.
Because that's ridiculous. That number one, because we don't have the testing numbers, how in the world could they effectively know? They can't.
Know what?
Know who has it and who doesn't if there's so many asymptomatic people.
Well, they're going to do tests. They're going to do. I mean, that's the expectation is by June or so they'll be able to test you. And
what I'm saying though is that okay, so you get tested, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you have it and you do the 14 days. What stops you from getting reinfected?
But we don't know for sure if you are immune or not.
That's what I mean.
We don't know. I mean, hopefully we are, but if not, then it is a total messed up situation. It's just like no one's going to want to go anywhere. Yeah. I mean, it's just like what the hell? I mean, go anywhere. It's ridiculous if that's the case.
Yeah, like the thing I said in the book, and we can't have that. We cannot have a functional society where people aren't interacting socially. It just doesn't work. It'll fall apart. People will riot in the streets, and there'll be chaos. And
I don't.
That you can't just lock everybody up and then say that I'm going to let you out, but at any time, if you break one of these new ever-changing protocols, you go away for 2 weeks until we think it's safe to let you back out again. I mean, that is the definition of an authoritarian state. When they can just take all your rights away from you whenever they want, for whatever reason they want.
Well, yeah, but they're doing it for your safety.
For your safety. And as Benjamin Franklin said, he who would give up freedom or liberty for security deserves neither.
Well, here's the good news. All right, okay. I already told you this before. I already told you this.
My founder quote. Go ahead.
So there was another story that came out today, and it said as you said, a big problem is there's no testing. Unless you're dying in the hospital, you don't get tested. Just about. But they did test people in 4 U.S. state prisons because people were getting sick in these prisons. And what do you know? I mean, well, it's a whole other topic. I was about to say prisons tend to be places where they do experiments or have trying to get too crazy. But anyway, in these prisons, they found 3,300 people tested positive. And to give an example, there's a prison in Ohio, the Marion Correctional Institution, 2,500 prisoners. They tested 2,300 of them, and 2,000 have the virus. 2,000. And then they tested prisons in Arkansas, North Carolina, Virginia, and 3,200 out of 4,600 had it. So it's a huge percentage of these prison populations apparently that already have the virus. But here's the good news about it. Out of these 3,300 people, 96% of them have the virus, but they had no symptoms at all.
So if you can extrapolate properly from that, then what we're looking at is a largely asymptomatic, heavily transmissible virus.
Yeah. And out of these 3,300 positives, one person has died. So that's 1 out of 3,300. And I was telling you, I saw projections. Someone made, it was in the New York Times, but several weeks ago, they projected out every county in the country, how many people would actually die from this thing. And it matches up. Those
like 0.33, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It matches up to this 1 out of 3,300. So the county I live in has approximately 100,000 people, and projection is 30 people would die. We've already had 2 people die.
And I think that is the big reason why people need to not only let the government know that this plan is ridiculous as far as tracking everyone, but it's ineffective. Because chances are the virus has already spread to most of the population. And if these numbers hold, based on the prison data, then it's less mortal than the flu. So why in the world would we give up all these rights so that they can do this for something that's less dangerous than the flu?
Well, I doubt it's spread. It's probably, like when it's spread this much in these prisons, it's basically run its entire course.
Well, yeah, is what I mean, though.
It's not done that yet throughout the whole country.
And I agree with you. So I understand the social distancing, but what I'm saying is that eventually it's going to run through the whole country.
Yeah.
So all of this technology isn't going to change anything, except give the government a way to track everybody.
That's true. The only thing it does is it prevents, the whole justification of the social distancing and the lockdown has been to spread this out over time. So without doing it, all this would have happened like within 90 days.
Well, no, yeah, and I agree with the social distancing, but what I'm talking about is the technology.
Yeah.
We don't need the technology. That is the power grab. We don't need the technology at all. It's going to happen. It's already happening. The social distancing is our best way to mitigate antivirals and a cure. See, that's what they should be doing. Instead of setting up a system to try to track all of us right now, you should be developing a cure, guys. That's what your focus should be on.
Yeah, but there might not be one.
Well, I understand that. What I'm saying is all those resources going into tracking all of us could be getting us faster to a cure or to antivirals.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that buy Apple stock. It's one of the most popular stocks that people buy, and they want it to like rule the world.
To look like they're doing something. I understand. Yeah. Something beneficial. They need their front. I understand. They want a front to look like they're helping people.
No, it's just, it's, I don't know. I'm not. No, it's. Not many people, I think, realize that this is what is being developed. I doubt. I don't.
Well, and here's the thing too. I don't know who these people, where they think. I mean, is that you never know. Maybe they'll set up a phone fund, so everybody can get themselves tagged. But who's going to have the money to be getting, phones? I mean, any new phones. Maybe rich people, but all of these new things they're going to start including on phones. I don't know who they think is going to be buying all these new phones in the next couple of years.
Well, I think it'll just be installed on the ones you already got.
Yeah, well, supposedly you have to opt in. We'll see. I have a feeling that's just going to be in there.
No. The story was that I read last weekend is it'll be something you can download.
Yeah.
But then they expect it would end up being automatically put on there as an update at some point.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not. That's another thing everyone needs to remember too. It's not voluntary. It's not. If
I know.
Take it. It's not voluntary. So let's be honest. Yeah, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. I'll do everything I can not to do it myself, and I'll be advising people not to do it because it's nothing more than it's an attempt to look busy and it's a power grab, just based on people's ignorance of what's going on. They know we're afraid.
These companies make money by finding as much about you as they can.
Yeah,
so they can run, let people run ads and just track you and so forth. It's just, it's like that. Maybe they can recommend, hey, you're sick. Go to the doctor now. We got a doctor that we like.
Well, yeah. And then they can suggest all these products you can buy to keep yourself safer and it's a huge selling opportunity for these corporations. And it's of course they would be adding to their bureaucracy and wanting more money when everyone's going to have less.
Yeah.
Like that's what I don't think, a lot of people understand yet is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we are on our way, if not already in the midst of a Great Depression.
I believe so. But
this is the Great Depression of this century.
The thing, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this. I knew you would talk about the civil liberties angle of it, and I just wanted to really emphasize that things aren't going back to normal. I mean, you get a system like this going on, you're not going to want to do much. You're not going to want to go to the restaurant or travel or do anything, because carrying around your phone, because you'll be at risk of having the stupid gizmo go off on you.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that maybe you'll see people just start to leave their phone at home.
Yeah, they will, but if you fly or something, they'll require you to have it, or places of business, you'll be required to be like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, no,
it's like a Philip Dick movie or something. Just.
Yeah, no, it's an Orwellian nightmare. I don't think that we should, where who knows what'll happen from state to state and federally how they'll approach this, but I would hope that people will push back and won't do this, because this is just, and it's not just going to be this. If we are successful in pushing this back, they'll try to do this another way. So we need to maintain vigilance. That's the price of having some of the rights we have, is we have to watch what they're doing and then speak out against it when they try to take it.
That's what's amazing is we're talking about this, but I don't think it's on any television channel. I'm just reading a few articles. I mean, it's in 3 paragraphs in this entire Sunday newspaper I got here, and I've only seen one article or whatever last weekend, so it's barely being talked about. And you turn on the television, and all they're going to talk about is Trump, one way or the other. Not, what did he talk about? Silly thing did he say? Yeah. When this is a lot more important than liking what he says or not, whatever. This, he's.
Well, and this is one of the reasons why they focus on him.
This is going to impact your day-to-day life. Not what he says on the television box.
Yeah. This is another reason why you'll see that people both supporting and opposing him focus on him so much, and why we've discussed it in the past, why I tell people not to pay attention to that, because that's a sideshow. Who cares about that? The politics is not important, because they're all on board for things like this, whether they're Democrat or Republican. So in the end, what people need to understand is why should you give them loyalty when they've given you none?
Yeah, well, what the article I read last weekend was saying that Kushner, son-in-law of Trump's, is working on this with.
Oh,
with
I'm
these
sure.
companies.
Yeah.
That he's
sure
the point man in the this task force thing in the White House. So.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm not blaming it for him. I'm not saying he created it. It's just
no, but
they're all working on it together.
Exactly. And I think that is the message that is most important that people have to get into their heads, is that there are no good guys in this fight, ladies and gentlemen. There's just less bad guys. There are no good guys. The people that are running the establishment of the Republican and the Democratic Party have an agenda, and in that agenda, we are way down the list. Our needs and loyalty to us is at the bottom of the list. So it is time for us to start acting in our own interest. And what I think that, and like I said, I don't want to drag us out too long, but what I think that means is that we have to start really having a look at our political system and the changes that need to happen, and that we don't just give our allegiance away to a party. Because what have the parties done? We are where we are at currently because of the inaction of both parties, and because they have done nothing in the macro for decades, that have really changed and helped the lives of Americans. But in the micro, in the last, 2 terms under Trump and Obama, they spent all their time fighting and doing pretty much nothing but pilfering the treasury and increasing their own corporate interests. What great good have they done for America? They've started 7 wars. How about we stop the wars? Where we could get some money that we need right now? Maybe stopping the wars, but that won't happen because there are corporations that are benefiting from them. So why do we owe them our votes? We don't. We don't owe them anything. They owe us.
Well, it's an interesting. No, you're right. It's an interesting time we're in, and we got to keep our eyes open. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, we have to be vigilant. We have to be, because it is during times of, and looping back to the book.
Yeah,
it's during times of fear and disgust that they're going to do this. When we're all distracted, when everybody cares about, the daily briefing with Trump, where Democrats and Republicans get to argue about that all day. And I mean, but when you look at it, essentially, what value does that have to your life besides distracting you from important things? None. It's got no appreciable value. It's we talked about before. It's the Orwellian 3 minutes of hate daily.
Yeah.
Where you can go rant at the TV, but it doesn't really do anything. So why are we doing it?
Well, I turned it off. Stopped watching it.
Exactly. Turn it. You know what? Watch a game show, because at least in that, something productive happens. You actually see something win or lose, and there's a consequence, and it changes someone's life.
That's right. Well, that kept you a long time. I'll let you go and catch up again. And everyone needs to run out, go to their computer, and grab your book, Human Time Bomb.
And I appreciate everyone that has bought a book so far, and everyone that will. And I know, it's we buy things that you think are going to be useful to you, that have real value, because there's a lot of people buying things right now that I think they're going to regret in a year or two, when it's going to take a long time for things to get back even close to what they used to be. So you really should be saving your money for things that are useful, educational, that will have some sort of value to you in the future that can be used again, because there's a lot of luxury items and things right now I think people are wasting their money on, and they're not going to need them. They're going to need things. They need to be looking for things that have enduring value right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So everybody take care.
You too. We'll talk to you later.